The best of downtown from 7 to 8 a.m. on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket and 929theticket.com. This is the best of downtown.
And a good Sunday morning. Welcome into the best of downtown on this last day of August. Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket and 929theticket.com. Rich Kimball and Brian Stackpole with you. For the next hour, looking back at some of our favorite conversations from the week here on 92.9 The Ticket. You can follow Downtown on Twitter. We're at Downtown Rich K. Facebook page is Downtown with Rich Kimball as well. We'll hear from Steve Buckley of the Boston Herald today. Talk some baseball with Ted Berg of USA Today. Break down the Patriots' preseason finale against the Giants with Rich Hill of SB Nation. Eric Avidon checks in with us as well, and we'll play all the semifinalists heading into our Downtown Throwdown rap battle this coming week. But let's kick things off on this Sunday morning by talking some baseball, just not the Red Sox right away, with Steve Buckley of the Boston Herald.
By far the biggest one we had, and we were sort of the unintended beneficiary, if that's the right way to put it. Pete Frates, as you know, the former Boston College baseball captain, we had planned more than a year ago that we were going to do this year's game as a fundraiser, both for the ALS Therapy Development Institute in Boston, and also the Pete Frates No. 3 Fund. So it was a dual fundraiser for ALS, and we knew Pete was going to be here and all that. And then this ice bucket thing that Pete was so much a part of went viral, as you know, and it got us a lot of attention, and we had the biggest crowd we've ever had. We invited, I think, 15 of Pete's former teammates from high school and college, St. John's Prep, in Danvers, Mass, and Boston College to play in our game, and we had a huge crowd. We raised a ton of money. I think we raised we're still doing the accounting, but somewhere between $65,000 and $70,000. That's just one little charity baseball game. So we had a lot of fun that night.
Well, that's wonderful. And this is not a new thing. Pete's been associated with your game for quite a while.
Yeah. We invited him to play. It's kind of funny because I met him 3 years ago at a banquet. And he ribbed me, so how come I never got invited to play in your game? And we don't really invite a whole lot of people. Most of the players kind of find us or are recommended by coaches and a variety of other means. But we don't go out and scout people or anything. And a few months later, Pete was diagnosed with ALS, and we invited him to play in the game that summer, hoping he would still be able to play. But even in that short period of time, he had lost the skills necessary to play baseball. He still looked and walked and acted fine, but his reflexes had already started to be in question. So he started the game at first base and came out after one pitch, and it was, as it happens, the last game he ever played in. And that was an incredible night. He started the game at one pitch, and then his best friend from high school came out to replace him at first and hugged him, and then the catcher ran down and hugged him, and then the first baseman hugged him. And the next thing you know, we had players on both teams converging on first base. It was very organic and impromptu, and it was just a tremendous, tremendous night. And we wanted to do last year's game for ALS, but we'd already committed to the Scleroderma Foundation in New England, so we said, no problem, we'll just do it in 2014, and we all returned to St. Peter's Field Monday night, and we had a great time.
Back maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago when this first started to go viral, there were some people coming out saying, it's publicity stunt and blah, 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 the usual things. And you had, I thought, a terrific column that really talked about what this was all about and concentrated on Pete Frates and also the fact that if nothing else back then, when we didn't know how crazy this would go, the fact that it brought a smile to his face. And then when I saw that, that was enough to get me involved, and I did it. What's his reaction been to all of this and the phenomenal success of the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Well, I was talking to him last week, and obviously his speeches abandoned him, so obviously I did the talking, but we communicate through his parents, and I've gotten to know John and Nancy and his brother Andrew fairly well. Pete is enormously happy and proud that all that he's done the last couple of years, particularly the Ice Bucket Challenge. I mean, the numbers are staggering. It's like up to $100 million. And I do recognize that you need to, this is something I've learned in the last couple of weeks. I could have figured it out, but when it stares you in the face, you need to have awareness before you have fundraising. No one's going to donate money to a cause about which they know nothing. That's just common sense. And when you have awareness, then suddenly you're aware of what is going on, what ALS is all about. I was talking with Jonathan Eig, who's the author of the Lou Gehrig biography, Luckiest Man, which was a New York Times bestseller, and John's a friend of mine who lives out in Chicago. And he was telling me that that when Lou Gehrig, they had Lou Gehrig Day on July 4th, 1939, one of the misnomers is that there were 70,000 people at Yankee Stadium saying goodbye to Lou Gehrig and that he was going to die. The reality is that very few people knew that Lou Gehrig was going to die. Most people were uneducated about ALS. They didn't really know what amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is and that it really is a fatal disease. They thought that he had some kind of polio and that he wasn't going to play anymore, but he certainly wasn't going to die. And even now, there's a very few, it's a rare disease, obviously. Very few people are affected by it up close and personal. So it's not on our radar screen in most cases. Well, now it certainly is. And this is a disease that needs a ton of money for the research that's required. And whatever happens with Pete, we will know someday. I mean, it's my hope that in our lifetime, a cure for this disease will be found. What we do know is that without any hesitation whatsoever, that the day that this disease is cured, we'll know that Pete got us there a lot farther ahead in time than we would have otherwise.
Absolutely. We're talking with Steve Buckley of the Boston Herald. Delaying talking about the Red Sox because they're not that interesting right now. Let's talk about another baseball league. You were at the championship this week. For anybody who's not aware of it, can you talk a bit about the Yawkey Baseball League?
Well, you know, just as like Portland has the Twilight League, and I'm not sure what amateur leagues are up in the Bangor area, but we have three pretty good amateur leagues here in Boston: the Park League, the Yawkey League, and the Inner City League. And there just happens to be a Yawkey League team in my neighborhood down at Trump Field in Somerville. And Alabrandis Club has been a powerhouse like the Celtics of the 50s and 60s. They won the championship last night at Trump Field. They beat Al Thomas Club of Milton, Mass. In Game 5 of a best-of-7 final. It's the 15th championship they've won in like 19 years, and the 5th in a row. And I covered the Twilight League at Deering Oaks when I was at the Press Herald years ago, and kind of fell in love with amateur baseball. I think that watching amateur baseball on a summer night, and part of this was the impetus for us establishing the old-time baseball game. When I was a kid growing up in Cambridge, you used to hear stories down at Cambridge Park that Eddie Wakers went on to be a big league star with the Phillies and Cubs, that he used to play at this park. He was from my hometown. I knew Eddie. He was still alive when I was a kid. Like I went to his wake. And that I heard that 3,000 people would turn out to watch Cambridge play in local industrial leagues. And years later when I was in Portland, the Twilight League, just to see a couple hundred people down at Deering Oaks, it really instilled in me just a fascination and love with summer amateur baseball.
Eddie Wakeus, wasn't his story part of the basis of the Roy Hobbs shooting scene in The Natural?
It was. And the fact of the matter is, I didn't know that until, obviously, The Natural didn't come out until years later, but he was, in point of fact, shot by a deranged fan in the stomach, and it did affect his career. That's a part of the story that Bernard Malamud, when he wrote The Natural, he took bits and pieces of different baseball stories and melded them into The Natural, and that's the Eddie Wakers part of the story. And Eddie was from Cambridge, my hometown. When I was a young teenager, he lived on Fayette Street, and he used to come down to the park and hit us grounders. I remember him teaching me how to play first base, not knowing then that he was a storied baseball player. He was also, he kind of caught me flat-footed here. It was either the invasion of Normandy or the Battle of the Bulge, but he was knee-deep in World War II, and probably didn't have as good of a career as he might have had it not been for the deranged fan and also some battle fatigue from World War II. And he fell in hard times later in life, and he looked much older than he was. And I remember coming home one day and telling my dad that there was this old guy hitting us grounded, and my dad said, "Oh, it's Eddie Wakers. He was a big baseball star." And then when he died, I forget, it was either, I want to say it was like fall, late summer of 72. I was 16, and we picked up the papers and read all the stories. We knew he had played in the big leagues and that he was a big star. We didn't know I didn't know until he died about being shot by a deranged fan. Interestingly, the woman who shot him just died about a year and a half ago. Huh. She went to either a mental hospital or a prison for quite a while, and then got out and moved somewhere and lived a life as a recluse, never did any interviews the rest of her life, and she just died about a year and a half ago.
A fascinating story. Well, on the Red Sox, the only thing I wanted to ask you about them was this poll that got a lot of play in the last couple of days, asking fans about their favorite Boston team. The Patriots won this thing going away, I think 42%. Red Sox coming in with about 30%. Bruins at 21%. Is that a pretty accurate reading from your perspective?
Well, I mean, given that the Red Sox have pretty much shut down for business for the season, I don't mean that officially, but in terms of competitiveness and going to the postseason, we know that this is a lost season. Fans in New England have every right to be fickle and cyclical. There's nothing wrong with. I don't like the term climbing on the bandwagon, because when teams perform really well and become exciting, it's only natural they're going to draw more fans. And where we are right now is the Red Sox are not going to the postseason. They are building for better days ahead. The Patriots have Revis Island coming to Foxborough, and they've been a competitive team all the way along. They are looked upon yet again as being a contender for the Super Bowl. So, of course, they're the most popular team right now. They should be the most popular team right now, because if you're from the 6-state region and you follow the 4 Boston teams, well, guess what? They've combined for 10 championships since February of '02 when the Patriots won their first Super Bowl. And we're looking at 3 by the Patriots, 3 by the Red Sox, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 championships, 1 by the Bruins, 1 by the Celtics. So there is no longer room for silver linings, moral victories, life lessons, etc. We want our teams to win. And the Patriots, at this moment, I think we can all agree, represent the next best hope, one of our teams winning a championship. So, of course, it's the most popular.
And that was Steve Buckley of the Boston Herald talking about the Boston Red Sox and, of course, some baseball going around in the Boston area. This is the Best of Downtown for the 31st day of August 2014. Glad to have you alongside with us for this edition of the Best of Downtown. Still ahead, we'll hear some Patriots talk with Rich Hill of SB Nation. Eric Avidon talking some Red Sox later on as well. We'll also give you a review of the winners of the first round of our Downtown Throwdown Rap Battle. You'll hear that later on. But next, after this first break, we'll hear from Ted Berg of USA Today as he'll talk all things MLB with us here on the program. You're listening to the Best of Downtown here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.
It's the Best of Downtown, a previously recorded edition of the program. Rich Kimball and Brian Stackpole here with you on a Sunday morning. Well, while the Red Sox are hopelessly out of the race, there are some interesting battles going on in Major League Baseball as we close in on the postseason. We had a chance to talk with USA Today baseball writer Ted Berg this week and look at some of the favorites to head to the postseason.
That's a very good question. I'm still moved to say the Oakland A's, even as they've slipped out of first place in their division. I know, with Cespedes leaving, a lot has been made about their offense and struggles there. I still think they've got a real deep lineup. Losing Cespedes and his power hurts, certainly. But, Johnny Gomes is a good hitter who can certainly beat up on right-handers. And I think that they've done a good enough job managing platoons that they can get that offensive value that they lost from Cespedes with a combination of guys, Gomes included. I don't, the pitching hasn't been where we've expected it to be since they brought some of these guys in. But I still think they've got the deepest team in baseball.
The Angels have been able to hang in there all season long despite some injuries. But is this the latest injury, the Garrett Richards? Is that the one maybe that'll break the camel's back?
Well, it's not good. And I still wouldn't be surprised. Now the talk is that the Angels aren't interested in taking on Bartolo Colon's salary for next year. They might be looking towards a guy like Trevor Cahill from Diamondbacks to sort of shore up the back end of that rotation. The thing with the Angels is their offense is so good that you just need a league average starter, and they're so far ahead of the second wild card spot that they can pretty much coast to the playoffs. Playoffs will be a different story with Matt Schumacher and the the diminished Jared Weaver as their best options for a playoff series. But I think that their offense is good enough, and the playoffs, frankly, are random enough that I wouldn't count them out either.
The Kansas City story is a great one, but I still have some trouble believing they can hang in there and hold off Detroit in the month of September.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's really the Royals are a tough team to figure out. They keep winning games, and every time they win a game, it becomes harder to count them out. But you just look at the amount of talent that's on the Tigers, and they've had some injury issues, and this rotation where a month ago we were saying, it looks like Justin Verlander's their fifth starter. Now everybody's banged up. Now they're using Buck Farmer and Robbie Ray and these guys that aren't exactly seasoned all-stars. I still think with the offense they have, with the pitching staff they should have when it all congeals, that's the team to beat in the AL Central, even if they've lost the lead there.
I still get the feeling when I look at the American League East standings and see Baltimore pretty comfortably in first, I feel like they've taken that thing somehow by default.
Yeah, it's a funny year. It's a funny year for the AL East. It's obviously got the reputation as the best division in baseball, and I think for the most part, rightfully so. A lot of that is predicated on the Yankees and Red Sox being perennially competitive. You guys have seen what happened to the Red Sox this year. And the Yankees, while they keep hanging around, again, another team where it's kind of hard to figure how they're doing it. I'm pretty sure they've still been outscored by their opponents for long stretches of the season. They had really no starting pitching whatsoever. The offense, most of the guys outside of Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, most of their players have underperformed, but they keep winning games. So I don't think they have enough to catch the Orioles. I don't think they have enough to sneak into a wild card spot. But yeah, it does look like the Orioles sort of took advantage of a situation where all the rest of the division underperformed. They're a team that's built to win now. They've got a bunch of guys approaching free agency after the either end of this season, end of next season. They've had their injuries too. Losing Matt Wieters hurt them, but they've been just good enough to pull out ahead of that division.
We're talking with Ted Berg of USA Today. Look at the National League, and they got off to a slow start, but they're the Nationals pretty much right where we expected they'd be at this point in the year.
Yeah, and it's helped them, again, that the division hasn't been great. The Braves made a push early. They had so many starting pitching performances that you sort of believe because it's the Braves and they've had such good luck with starting pitchers. But I guess you had to know Aaron Harang wasn't going to be the best pitcher in baseball forever, that Irvin Santana wasn't suddenly, one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball. And their offense, with the strikeouts, has just sort of fallen apart. So yeah, the Nationals, I would have picked them going into the season in the NL East, and now finally healthy, everything clicking, they're really playing up to where you'd expect.
You got a bunch of teams battling for wild card spots there. The Brewers holding on to a lead of about 2 games. But who's the best team other than the Nationals, the one team that could maybe take them out in the postseason? I would go with the Dodgers. It seems like just because having Kershaw pitch 2 or 3 times in a short series, that's 2 or 3 guaranteed wins. And that's so close to winning. He's so close to clinching those series on his own. And they've got, behind him enough good pitchers, enough talent in the lineup that I certainly wouldn't bet against them in a playoff series. Boy, it's been a great season for pitchers all around Major League Baseball. As you look at the year heading into this final month, what's been one of the most pleasant surprises, one of the best stories in baseball this year, either team-wise or an individual?
The Milwaukee Brewers. You mentioned, a team that at the beginning of the year, I think everyone said, okay, well, the Brewers are off to a hot start. There's no way they'll keep this up. And they just have, and it's a hard division with the Pirates and the Cardinals are looking good. I thought the Reds would be better than they have been. I think they have a pretty good team. They've had some injury issues. So to me, it's the Brewers. They've had sort of this magical season from day one. If you remember in spring training, they found the dog and sort of took over all the attention from spring training with Hank the dog.
That's right.
And from there, it's just even with with Ryan Braun not really performing, without really a frontline starting pitcher, they've just, they've been in the lead in that division since day one. And to me, that's pretty exciting. It sort of reminds you never to count out your baseball team, right? Because every once in a while, a team just has a season where everything's played.
Who would you like to see meet in the World Series if you had your way?
Well, I would like to see the Angels there. I know I said I think the A's are the best team, and I guess, in theory, I would like the best team rewarded. I feel like Mike Trout needs to have a national showcase at this point, and a World Series stage would be a great way for the casual baseball fan to be introduced to Trout and how good he is and how good he has been, and just see the way the guy plays, because it's amazing. I mean, I was watching last night. He hits a line drive sort of towards the gap, but it got cut off by the left fielder. And there's just no doubt Trout's ending up on second. And then sure enough, the next pitch or 3 pitches later, someone hit a single, and Trout's flying around third and scoring there. It's just the aggression he plays with, the sort of calculated aggression, because he is a pretty patient hitter, how good he is in the field, how good he is on the bases, and how good he is, how good of a guy he seems to be, at least from the rooting standpoint. Just a guy who's 100% always in the game. That's a guy I'd like to see on a bigger stage, and I guess the same is sort of true of the Dodgers. It'd be nice to see Kershaw getting his due. It'd be nice to see how Puig plays in the postseason on the big stage. I think maybe the rest of the country wouldn't be so psyched about an all-LA World Series, but it would be pretty exciting.
And that was Ted Berg of USA Today talking about the MLB and some of the intriguing postseason races that are coming down the stretch as we enter September tomorrow. Of course, Red Sox not a part of any of these races, but still intriguing nonetheless. We'll take another break on the Best of Downtown. When we come back, though, from that break, we'll talk a little New England Patriots football, as we're just 7 days away from the opener against the Miami Dolphins on the road, which you can hear, of course, right here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. So Rich Hill will be joining us from SB Nation and patspulpit.com, and he'll talk and give us a skinny about the New England Patriots here moving forward. You're listening to the Best of Downtown here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.
Back on the Best of Downtown Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket and 92.9theticket.com on your Sunday morning. Rich Kimball and Brian Stackpole. The New England Patriots wrapped up the preseason on Thursday, losing to the New York Giants by a score of 16-13, and now get ready for the start of the regular season next weekend. We broke things down on Friday's program with Rich Hill, who covers the team for SB Nation.
I would not say they did. I know that they had a few questions heading into the game. They wanted to know who might be helping out at tight end, and that question definitely got answered. The new guy that they picked up from the Bucks, Tim Wright, he actually played a lot of the game, and he looked really, really good out there. But I think one of the big questions that they had going into the game was who was going to replace Logan Mankins, and I don't think they answered that with their play yesterday.
So you don't think Josh Klein is the answer then, huh?
I don't think so. I thought he looked strong out there, but I thought that he left a little bit to be desired. He gave up a few plays in the backfield, and all of them led to some pretty big losses for the team. So I think they'd like to see more consistency there.
How would you grade the performance of Jimmy Garoppolo last night?
I thought he was outstanding. I know that he still has plenty of room to grow out there, but putting him out there wire to wire, I thought he did it as well as you could expect, or at least he exceeded my expectations. When he was out there some routes that he could have improved on. He was throwing behind some of his receivers when they were crossing the field, but the way that he commanded the offense and the way that he ran the offense, I thought it was admirable for his first game.
How important was it last night to see Aaron Dobson out there and have him play very well?
I thought that was one of the highlights. I thought just his first game back after having his foot surgery back in March, the way that he looks as quick as ever. He was getting his separation. He looks a lot more confident this year than he did last year. So that the fact that he was out here playing on the field, I think that bodes well for the Patriots moving forward.
Let's take a look at the defensive side of things last night. Some nice efforts there all around. I was especially impressed, and I think you mentioned it too in your column on SB Nation, the play of Zach Moore last night.
Yes, the rookie sixth-round pick out of Concordia. He played very, very well. They made him play the entire game on defense. And I think they like him a lot. He's very, very flexible on defense. They let him play the defensive line when they have the three-man front. And they also let him move out to defensive end when there's four men out there. And I think they like him a lot. He's grown plenty over this summer. And I think he actually might have the inside edge when it comes to who's going to be backing up Rob Ninkovich and Chandler Jones. I thought he played very, very well.
Well, also, you wrote, likely see a lot of these four-corner sets that we saw last night defensively.
Yes, yeah, I think that's an interesting wrinkle that I think Belichick alluded to a little bit earlier in the offseason. He's been testing out some of the flexibility of their cornerbacks. And I think he might be onto something there. When they move Devin McCourty back to free safety, he has the range. But I think in today's passing league, you need to have a bunch of people in the secondary who are able to cover every other offensive player. And I think by fiddling around in the backfield, by putting Kyle Arrington at safety or Alfonso Dennard at safety, I think that they're going to put themselves in a better position to cover opposing deep threats.
We're talking with Rich Hill of SB Nation. Patriots' final preseason game, a loss last night, 16-13. Some good signs. Still a few questions out there. Do you think we know yet what the linebacker arrangement will be?
I think that they're hoping for the typical three of Jamie Collins, Donta Hightower, and Gerard Mayo. I think that they'll be out there a lot of the time. A big wrinkle that they've been showing a lot this offseason is that they've been running a lot of the 3-4 offense, which means that they have four linebackers on the field. And they've been using Chandler Jones and Rob Ninkovich as those outside linebackers. And so I think that actually gives them a little more flexibility on defense, so they won't have to have Gerard Mayo or Jamie Collins and Hightower out there every single snap. But I think for the starting positions, they're all set. They have a lot of room to grow and improve when it comes to the backups. I don't see any Dane Fletchers on the horizon who come in and start in a pinch. But they have some depth back there, and we'll see how that develops as the season goes on.
Well, they have to get that roster down to 53 this weekend. Do you see any surprises coming in the next 24 hours?
In the next 24 hours, I don't think so. I know that we saw Benjarvis Green-Ellis be released by the Bengals today. He's a former running back, and I know Belichick really, really appreciated his time with the Patriots. But I don't think that we'll see too many surprises. We'll probably let the dust settle a little bit as we move forward. If there is one surprise, I think it would be with who stays or actually who doesn't stay when it comes to the running backs. Because I know that Roy Finch definitely impressed a lot of people this offseason. And when you look at how many people that the Patriots can hold on their roster, someone might be holding the bag and walking out the door. But when you have Ridley, Vereen, and White, who all should be pretty much locks on the roster due to their draft status as well as their ability on the field, then you have Brandon Bolden, who didn't go to the game. And that leaves some questions as to what the team views the future with Brandon Bolden.
Right now, as we turn our attention to getting ready for the regular season opener, what's your biggest concern about this team?
About the team, my biggest concern is definitely that interior line. I know that they're very thin at the interior before they traded Logan Mankins. So removing him from the equation kind of adds a few more question marks as they move forward. Last year, there was definitely room for improvement with Ryan Wendell. He definitely declined in play versus his 2012 year, and then Dan Connolly, always room for improvement. But I think that if they both improve themselves, so if Wendell at center and Dan Connolly at right guard, if they can improve their ability, I think that the team will find itself in an okay situation.
And that was Rich Hill of SB Nation and PatsPulpit.com talking a little New England Patriots action with us after they concluded their last preseason game of training camp, as now it's just games that matter from here on out, including the Miami Dolphins coming up in a week's time. The New England Patriots looking to get another Lombardi Trophy and another Super Bowl victory. Again, that's the dream of all 32 teams in the NFL, but the Patriots seem to be primed to be in a better position than a lot of the other teams, at least in the AFC. We'll take another break here on the Best of Downtown. When we come back, we'll talk the Red Sox. We'll talk about the Boston Red Sox. Yes, we'll do it. It's unfortunate. We don't like talking about the Red Sox because of how bad the season has been, but there are some bright spots. We'll talk the bright spots with Eric Avidon on the Metro West Daily News when we come back after the break. You're listening to the Best of Downtown here, Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket.
Best of Downtown, your Sunday morning, last day of August. A reminder, no downtown tomorrow as we take the holiday off. We're back live on Tuesday with Maine coach Jack Cosgrove, plus Jeff Solari in the next round in our rap battle, the Downtown Throwdown. You'll hear, by the way, all our semifinalists later on in this best of program this morning. But right now, talking some Red Sox baseball as we head to the final month of the season. No playoffs for the Red Sox, but a lot of interesting decisions to be made, and a lot of guys maybe playing for their future with the Red Sox. We talked about all of that with Eric Avidon, who covers the team for the Metro West Daily News.
Yeah, I think that's 3 decent ones out of him in his last 4. He did have a pretty bad one his last time out, 6 earned run in 6 innings. But before that, a couple of good ones, and then last night. And I may be mistaken about this, but I'm pretty sure that Vasquez was the catcher in all 3 of the good ones, whereas the poor start he had last week was with Ross behind the plate. So he seems to have be developing a pretty good rapport with Vasquez.
Very interesting there. Well, the downside last night was another rough outing from Koji Uehara. The Red Sox have said that he's a part of their future. Is that a good thing for this team going forward? Koji said this is not about fatigue, so if not, what's the problem?
Yeah, he says it's just about the splitter, that it's about finishing off the pitch. But the numbers the last 4 or 5 outings are pretty alarming, and that was kind of one position that you didn't really think about as the team, destroyed its roster back at the trade deadline, upgraded the offense, destroyed the starting pitching staff. You didn't really think about closer when you were looking ahead to the offseason. You're thinking about, will they re-sign John Lester? Will they make a trade for Cole Hamels? Will they make a trade for someone else? Will they pursue Max Scherzer? That was the sole focus. You never thought about closer. Now, all of a sudden, I think that becomes part of the equation. Uehara was a sure thing, but he's 40 years old, and maybe we're seeing the start of the decline.
Well, the Red Sox also looking forward to the arrival at some point of Rusney Castillo after the big signing. They came close on Abreu last year. Ben Cherington was not going to let this one get away. How long before we might see him in a Red Sox uniform?
I think he'll do a little. They'll try and get him into minor league games, and the minor league season ends pretty quickly into September once those playoffs wrap up. So after that, there's really no place else for him to go other than to come to the Red Sox. So figure by September 7th, September 10th, something like that would seem like a reasonable guess.
So as we go down the stretch here, Eric, which guys on this team are playing for their job, playing for their future with the Red Sox?
A lot. A whole lot of them. You look certainly at someone like Mookie Betts. Are they just showcasing him right now, or is he playing for to be the guy ahead of Jackie Bradley Jr.? You look at Will Middlebrooks. Certainly, he's had a lot of chances, and this might be the last one. You wonder if they're giving a good look at Yoenis Cespedes, or if he might be trade bait in the off season. So he might be someone who they're really taking a hard look at to see whether they want him to be part of them as the future, or to use him to try and get someone else. And then on the pitching staff, all the young guys, are pitching for the potential to be. You got to figure they're going to pursue at least 2 starters in the free agent or trade market. And I don't think there's any way that they can get rid of Buckholz. I think his trade value is just extremely low. So you figure there's 3 starting spots. So you got those young guys now in the mix for maybe 2 more starting spots. So there's really a lot of guys playing for their jobs.
We're talking with Eric Avidon, the Metro West Daily News. The Sox and Blue Jays, Game 2 of their series tonight. What do they do with Alan Craig down the road? He's always been described as kind of a man without a position. Does he end up in right field? Does he end up a DH after Ortiz finishes his time in Boston?
Well, I don't think you can just keep him around and wait for Ortiz to retire. Ortiz, has at least 1 more year after this year. Signed a 2-year deal. That's a good question. He is a bit of a mystery man. Do you put the young guy at first base instead of Mike Napoli and maybe try to move Mike Napoli? If Cespedes is traded, then Craig represents your power bat in the outfield. But if Cespedes is kept around, can you have an outfield that includes both him and Craig, who are no great shakes defensively? So yeah, he's a mystery man, but he is versatile, and he's young. So he's a guy. He's a guy who's real question about what they're going to do with. I don't have a good answer for you.
What about Will Middlebrooks? Does he have any value left, or do they still believe in his potential upside?
I can't see them giving him more chances after this. I mean, obviously his year was interrupted by injury, but he still played 40 games this year, and he's hit 193 with a 562 OPS. And this is a guy who's supposed to be a power guy. 2 home runs, 14 RBIs in 40 games. How many more looks do you really need before you finally decide that this guy, at the very least, needs a change of scenery? That it may work out for him sometime in the future, but it's probably not going to work out for him here in Boston.
That's going to be very interesting. Much, even though they're not in the race at all, much to be determined here over the next 30 days or so with the Red Sox. They're playing for more than just playing out the string, but really playing for the future for a lot of these guys.
Absolutely. Certainly you're not looking at wins and losses when you follow the team, but you are evaluating the talent. I think that's what these final 30. I think there's 31 games left in the season now. That's what this is about. Is paring down the list of guys who you're going to consider for next year and putting other guys on the list of, all right, let's look to move these guys.
And that was Eric Avidon of the Metro West Daily News giving us the skinny on the Boston Red Sox here as they're ready to play out the rest of their schedule. Still some things to look forward to, the pitching staff, who might emerge from that, and who might be some of the guys who might be on the trading block as well, as it looks like the Red Sox are primed for a big offseason move. Another break approaching here on the Best of Downtown, and when we come back, we will hear the Downtown Throwdown rap battles, very popular over the last couple of weeks. We'll play the winners of the first round of Downtown Throwdown when we come back. You're listening to the Best of Downtown here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.
Best of Downtown Throwdown. Through the quarterfinal round, we thank all of the people who participated in our first ever rap battle. Had some great ones. And some, they were all pretty good, but some obviously better than others. We now have 4 semifinalists, and we thought what we'd do is give you a chance this morning, if you missed them, to hear their opening round raps, the 4 people who are still alive, competing for the coveted title of Downtown Rap Champion. Well, we don't know what they'll get. We haven't decided yet.
We think something, maybe a microphone spray-painted gold, maybe a little plaque or something.
The respect of your peers is really what matters.
Yeah, you're the real OG, the original gangster of rap of Bangor, Maine.
Exactly. So let's start with our very first rap in the throwdown, Jessica Gagne of News Center.
Yo, yo, yo. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. It's Gagne West in the his house. Downtown with Rich Kate. I'm about to kick it old school for you guys. Check it out. With so much drama, WLBC, it's kinda hard being just Gagne. But somehow, someway, keep putting up with Lee Goldberg like every single day. Can I shoot a little something for my highlights? All you other sports guys, please. Don't be mad at me, I never miss. Like Zach Gilpin from Hamden Academy. I'm a Mainer through and through. Bean boots laced up and my flannel on, too. So Aaron Jackson, how you do? How you living? I got some bad news. No one watches Channel 7, and the few that do are going insane because they don't want you, they want Brittany DeVane. So they gonna change the channel, too. They'd rather see me than have to listen to you. Rolling down the street with my camera, shooting things for the news. Play back with my eyes on the games because all eyes are on me.
All right, up next as we feature our rap battle contestants, Brian Sullivan, ABC 7, Fox 22.
They call him Sully, the name you need to know, rapping on the radio for the Rich Kimball Show. They call him Sully, the name you need to know, spitting out these rhymes up in in the studio.
Sportswoods, I do that. I thought that you knew that. Along with the late news, be sure that you view that. Main football, I'm on it, and handsome, you got it. Up against Jeff Solari, he doesn't scare me. He's a friend of mine, but way past his prime. I'm the king on the throne, and he can watch me shine. He's a friend of mine, but way past his prime. Looks at Rudman Mitchell, only worries about his lawyer's time. Saying, sue that, he loves to do that, get me a lawsuit, I'm gonna kung fu that. S-U, 2 L's, and why you hear that name, cause I know you're old. Rapping's not my forte, but to the next round I go. They call me Sully. They may need to know. They call me Sully. Do it all for the Downtown Show.
Brian and Jess will meet on Tuesday in our semifinal round. The other two finalists, Gibran Graham, Bangor City Councilor, and of course our downtown weekend guy every Thursday.
Taking the mic to give you all a little treat. Every week you hear me rambling and gabbing with Rich while Brian lays the beat, bringing the answer to what's happening. Cause I'm the king of downtown, you won't contest my crown, delivering like I'm wearing the brown. That news guy, he's just a clown. Vacation Land has its own lyrical hipster. Perhaps you've heard of my man Spose. That Maynard's rhymes come right from the kisser, and Whiffle Boy don't even come close. Cause I'm the king of downtown, you won't contest my crown, delivering like I'm wearing the brown. That news guy, he's just a clown. Bang, bada bang, bangity bang, pop, 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 ka-plop, jiffy pop, bang.
And up against Gibran will be Alan Adams of The Main Edge and our movie reviewer on Monday's Pass the Popcorn segments.
Yo, downtown crew. Let's kick it. I'm gonna talk, elaborate, so listen. Alan's back with a brand new edition, seeing those movies as a critic, checking them out, getting psychoanalytic, passing the popcorn, letting you know whether or not you should go. Going to see them to offer observation, breaking it down to give you vital information. Words, they're my stock in trade, subtle and powerful meanings conveyed. Knowledge, that's the stuff that I disseminate, typing things up to entertain and educate. Novels and dramas, I'm talking them too, doing deep reads to give a thorough review. At the end of the day, I'm making a pledge. You can grab the whole paper, but you just need the edge. Yo, Stack, let's get out of here. Word to Waning's mother.
And those were our rap battle winners for round number 1. Jess Gagne, Brian Sullivan, Gibran Graham, and Alan Adams in that order. Of course, the Downtown Throwdown, our rap battle, will continue on Tuesday when we have our next show. Of course, no show Monday tomorrow due to the Labor Day holiday, but we'll be back on Tuesday with the first part of the semifinals, which will be Jess versus Sully. The winner will move on to the finals and also have the admiration of their peers. So Downtown Throwdown will begin once again for the semifinals with Jess and Sully on Tuesday afternoon. We'll take a break here, our final one of this edition. When we come back, we'll tell you what's to come on Downtown with Rich Kimball this Tuesday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m., a little shortened week once again, but we'll tell you what's to come there and also tell you what's to come later on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket.
Getting on board the Love Train, even early on a Sunday morning. Best of Downtown. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks to everybody on the show. Steve Buckley, Boston Herald, Ted Berg, USA Today, Rich Hill of SB Nation, Eric Avidon, Red Sox writer for the Metro West Daily News, and our Downtown Throwdown contestants, Jessica Gagne of News Center, Brian Sullivan, ABC 7, Fox 22, Gibran Graham, Bangor City Councilor, and Alan Adams of The Main Edge. No show for us. We're taking the Monday holiday off, but we're back with a live Downtown Tuesday, including Maine football coach Jack Cosgrove, Jeff Solari's shoot-around, Dennis Price with an entertainment report, a social media minute from Tobin Slavin, and our next rap battle with Jess Gagne and Brian Sullivan going at it as we get ready for Patriots season opener coming this week. Thanks for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. I hope it's a happy and safe one for you. Be sure to join us Tuesday afternoon at 4 on Downtown.
Forget all your troubles, forget all your cares.